Hey guys, Doug St. Denis with Ridge to River Outdoors. This is part 4 of a winter blackmouth seminar that Mike Jamboretz of Jambo Sport Fishing gave at the Snow King PSA meeting. Now, Mike has a lot of really good information here in part 4. In fact, Mike, I was a little surprised that you used marine charts and you were actually showing people exactly where to fish.
Well, it's marine charts. You can look at, they show the structure and where that bait's going to be on certain tides, and that's what it was all about.
Right. And guys, we want to make you and help you be successful on the water. It's seeing you guys be successful makes us very happy with what we're doing. Another thing that you talk about, Mike, is going with the tide rather than fighting that tide.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can run up and run with the tide if you're fishing from one A to B on one side of the bar, for instance. You got to pick up when you get to the end of it and run up, pick up all your gear, run back to it, start all over again, do the same thing. Running with the current. Don't ever go against it. You're not going to cover any ground. You're just not going to catch as many fish. So.
Excellent. So guys, it's tips like that that you're going to pick up at these seminars. So make sure you stick around for part 4. If you missed part 1, 2, or 3, go back and watch those. They will help you be successful with winter blackmouth in the Puget Sound.
There's another way to do this that I started doing last year. These things turn a little bit faster than I like. One way to slow them down is to put a belly hook on there, okay? They don't come, actually these things come with a little chintzy hook on the back. It's not very wonderful. Just get rid of that. Put a Siwash hook on that. That's a 95-170 mustad, or you can use a 95-10 mustad, which is the standard Siwash hook. Barrel swivel and a split ring, okay? What I started doing is this right here. I put a belly hook in there, okay? Some guys have taken, and I'm sure you've seen it, taken a treble hook and cut 2 points off of them and using those like a tripod, okay, to hold that hook up so that the hook that's remaining out of the treble hook, there's only one tip remaining, and they'll shove it up into that hole right there, that hole that you feed your line through. You can do that with a treble hook, okay? And you're using the 2 cutoff points like little tent poles or whatever, tripod, and that'll hold that hook up straight. What I've done, and I discovered this kind of by accident, but just dinking around trying to come up with something better, that Siwash hook has a big ring on it. It won't fit in that hole, but it does if you heat it up on your camper stove, okay? I took the stove in our motorhome, and I just took a hook that I didn't care about, and it's a designated hook, and I got the end of it pretty much red hot and shoved it up in there. It cut its own little path in there, and it kept a nice little slot. Then I take that, I'm not going to fish with that hook. It's just there as a tool now. But that hook right there will stand up and be erect like that, and it also slows down the lure. So it's going to slow the spin down some. It's pretty cool to have a second point on there.
So now, when you're tying it up, your line is tied to that second hook, and that hook, and then the rear hook is just tied to the...
Okay, the question is how are they really rigged? How do I rig the hooks? The top hook is tied on to the leader. Okay, then you set the distance to the back one. Actually, you're going to tie the first one first, then you're going to set the distance so that they work out well. They're both on the same leader. Okay, they're both on the same leader. Okay, well anyway, that's a pretty neat way to do it, and it keeps that hook standing up like that, so you're going to hook more fish. There you go. They do catch kings. Yeah. That's a color that's kind of hard to find. It's called Pink Magic. It really lights up, and the UV colors really light up well. Okay, leader length, line size, all this stuff's on these handouts, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time with it. But basically, this is just going to be your guideline for if you sometimes you forget how long to cut your leaders and how long to set them up when you're tying stuff, and that's why. This thing right here, as we get older, sometimes we forget, but I call it the Blackmouth quick reference. If anybody didn't get one of these, please help yourself. And all this stuff that's on these next slides is on there, okay? Drop back distance. That's used on the downrigger only, okay? That's the distance from the clip that you clip in to your lure. So how far do you run that lure out? The question came up earlier, what do you do with a plug? A plug is 40 feet back before you plug it into the downrigger clip. Okay, minimum 40 feet. Okay? Flashers with the hoochie or a spoon, I like them close to the boat. I think they work well, especially on our boat. We have 4 downriggers, okay? I want those things to follow the boat well, okay? If you're fishing really deep, I'm not going to fish 4 downriggers. I'm going to be asking for trouble there. But we can usually get away with 3 if you shorten up the drop back distance of the flasher, okay? Plugs, minimum 40, we talked about that. Spoons, if you're fishing solo, or in other words, you're not fishing the spoon behind a flasher, you're going to treat it just like a herring, okay? So herring and spoons, you can drop them back 15 or 20 feet. Probably a good idea to get them back there a bit. Okay, trolling speed, generally fast, okay? Now this is, what does fast mean? You're going to go by lure. You're going to go by what the lure is doing, not by what the boat's doing. All of our GPSs have speed over ground. Some of them have speed through water. You got to look at your lure. Sometimes when we're fishing flashers, even in the ocean, it seems like we're going kind of fast, or maybe we're not going fast enough. I'll take another rod and put a flasher on it and just stick it over the side of the boat and bury it in the water and see what it's doing. Pretty good thing to do. If you're trolling the same direction, we're going to get into this when we show some of these slides of places to fish. Number one, you're going to troll with the tide, okay? If you're trolling against the tide, you're not going to go 3 knots, okay? You're probably going to go 1 or something to get your lure to work. So you don't do that. You go with the tide. The fish like it better anyway, okay? Judge your speed by the action of the gear. That's what we're talking about. And once you figure out what that is, look at the angle of your downrigger cable, and then you know that every time you go that direction, that's the angle that you want, and that's the speed you want. Once you get it figured out, then you can look at your GPS and say, okay, as long as I know I'm trolling the west side of the bar on this tide, going this direction, 3 knots works, okay? But you got to look at your lure and make it work first, okay? The flasher should roll over fairly fast. The reason that flasher's there is to catch the fish's attention. And if you're fishing the candlefish behind there or the hoochie, you want the flasher to be whipping that thing around and making it swim. It won't swim by itself. You put a hoochie in the water and click the downrigged cable, it's just going to be just going to go in a straight line. It's not going to do anything. Okay, now we did this once before, and the angle of the downrigger cable is going to be 45. I'm talking about its relationship to the water, 45 or maybe 50, a little bit taller. Okay, that's once you figure out the speed, and I'm talking about with a 15-pound ball. Obviously, with a lighter ball, if you put a 10-pound ball, it's going to be way back there, and but you're doing the same thing. So this is all, that angle is something I figured out, but that's judging with a 15-pound ball. Okay. Like I said at the beginning of this thing, we're just going to go through Area 9. If you guys fish in the San Juans in 7, or you're going to fish in 8-2 or whatever, up around Baby Island, Elger Bay, I don't have any of those slides to show you, but I'm just going to talk about some quick places to fish here and right out front here, okay? Possession bar is always good, okay? Possession bar is basically, people say they're used on the east side or the west side, okay? Double Bluff and Useless Bay hold a lot of blackmouth, okay? Skunk Bay and Point No Point hold a lot of blackmouth. And Point No Point to Pilot Point and Eglon, coming down that shoreline, holds a lot of blackmouth. Okay, possession bar is, we talked about earlier, you have possession point here, you have Skagit Head. There's 2 land masses that are mimicked in the water, boom and boom, okay? So when we're talking about fishing structure, when the tide's coming in, the first thing it's going to hit is that right there, okay? The first thing the fish are going to hit is that right there. That's the first wall they run into. So it's a pretty good place to be, okay? You guys that are fishing coho right now, you know what I'm talking about, okay? Possession point, Skagit Head, the horseshoe right here. These are some of the names when you're on the radio and you hear people on the radio talking about where they're fishing. This is where they are. The east side, the southeast corner, the tin shed, southwest corner, and of course just the west side there, okay? Those are the names of the major places that hold fish and that people do fish on the bar. The bar is nothing more than a sand structure that comes up and it's basically flat on the top. Okay. Okay, these are where the times I fish these areas, okay? Okay, whoops. My theory is, okay, a lot of guys, you can notice that I'm fishing the west side on an outgoing, I'm fishing the east side on an incoming. So there you go, okay? Why do I do that? Because the bait gets washed up and over the top, and it's going to be on the lee side of that, okay? That's my way of thinking, okay? Other people will fish the total opposite as I do, and there's a reason for that too, and they're not wrong, okay? As the tide starts coming in, this bait that's out here is going to get pushed against the cliff, okay? When the tide gets stronger, 3 hours into the tide, that's the maximum amount of current, okay? You got 6 hours between a low and a high, or high and low, whatever. 3 hours is the middle. That's when the water's moving the most. That bait's going to get pushed against that hill to start with, when the tide's just starting to build, when the current's moving. So it's not a bad idea to be there on the incoming tide. You could be on the west side. But at a certain point, that bait's going to get pushed so hard, it doesn't stay there anymore. Now it's going to get pushed over to the tin shed here, and it's going to swirl around in there. That tin shed holds a lot of bait, and you can fish that on any tide, okay? Eventually, it can get pushed all the way to the other side. So you're going to fish the lee side of the structure. That's when I talk about fishing structure. That's the structure, okay? And that's my reason for, sometimes being opposite of what other people work, but it worked for me, okay? And I go on the theory that the bait cannot hold in that hard current, and it's true. They can't. You'll see it on your sounder. You can see the bait on the sounder. When it's gone, it's somewhere else. Where'd it go? It went to the other side, okay? This is a Skagit head buoy. If you're fishing there, I like to fish on an outgoing tide. I'm gonna troll up into Useless Bay there. On the incoming, I'm gonna do the opposite. This is okay. Okay, Useless Bay. There you go. There's Skagit buoy, Useless Bay. If you're fishing over there at Double Bluff, there's a close up of Double Bluff. All the currents coming past that structure right there. Those herring are not going to be able to hold. See that cliff right there? It's so hard for those herring to hold. They're going to get washed back into here like an eddy. It's just like an eddy in the river, okay? There's where you fish, back in here, okay? On an incoming tide, that fish is best on an incoming. It doesn't fish that well on an outgoing, but the fish is good, and you're just going to start out here and fish on into the bay. You're going to pick up your gear. You're going to run back to the point here and start all over again, just like you're drifting, although you're trolling with a downrigger. Okay, across Double Bluffs right here on the other side, Skunk Bay. You got Foul Weather Bluff right here, same thing. You can see what's happening here. Now, outgoing tide, you're gonna start at the point, no point there, and you're gonna fish it on into Skunk Bay, and there's a lot of blackmouth there that people overlook. Okay, you do the opposite the other way. But here's this point right now. Okay, now you're going to come down from point no point down towards Pilot Point and Eglin. Same thing. Really hard place to fish. It's steep over there. If I told Shirley, I said keep the boat at exactly 150 feet, she's going to. Right. It's so hard to do, but you're going to go in and out. Just do the best you can. Anyway, just follow the contours down. Get down about as far as Eglin. Pull the gear. Run back up there. Do it again. Okay. That fish is really good on an incoming, okay? Oh, there's a fish somebody caught. Hey, she lets me use kitchen utensils for putting up herring. She can't be bad. Anyway, that's pretty much the whole deal. I see you guys on the water, huh? Thank you.
Okay, guys, that wraps it up for this seminar. Mike Jamboret's at Jambo Sport Fishing has some great fishing opportunities year-round. Mike, what are some of the things that people can expect when fishing with you year-round?
Well, our summers are all done in the ocean. We move out to Nia Bay at the beginning of May, and we stay out there until the beginning of September when we move back into Puget Sound. There's halibut and a whole ton of salmon fishing to be done out there in the ocean.
Now, you've got some great lingcod fishing as well.
Lingcod fishing is mostly done in May before our depth restriction goes in. We know where they live. We have their address. So
that's excellent. Excellent. Now, guys, Mike is booked 2 years in advance for halibut fishing. Our halibut fishing is very limited, but it's very good. And Mike's one of the best charter boat captains you're going to find anywhere in the Puget Sound area, fishing from the Puget Sound out to Nia Bay in the ocean. So make sure you give Mike a call and visit his website at jambosportfishing.com. Thanks for watching.